What's poppin', lads? It's your boy Arctic here, and today I want to talk about a game that is very close to my heart, and I'm sure that many other people feel exactly the same way. I just want to explain why you should still be playing this game 11 years after its original release, and if you haven't played it yet, why you really need to do it. Let's jump straight into this. Now, Mount & Blade is a fantastic game series created by TaleWorlds Entertainment, and it saw its debut release in 2008, and it's set in the fictional land of Calradia. It's a beautiful place. Now, it's essentially a sandbox, strategy-based kind of medieval life battle simulator where you get to travel across this huge-ass map and participate in massive battles with hundreds of men and lead your troops to victory. And the first game is simply titled Mount & Blade, and that's not Mountain Blade, like a mountain. It's a mount, like you mount a horse, and blade because you smack people with these swords and shit. It's basically the whole premise of the game. You mount your horse and you swing some blades. But there is so much more than just swinging your axe into those bastard Sea Raiders skulls.
Less talking, more raiding!
Now, this was followed by the second game in the Mount & Blade series, which we'll be talking about today, which is Mount & Blade Warband. Now, it's essentially the first game, but with way more features and improved graphics. Before we continue with the video, I just want to quickly clarify something that will become very apparent throughout. Now, I personally believe that Warband is the best game in the Mount & Blade series. I know a lot of people agree, and I know a lot of people disagree and believe that Bannerlord is a superior game. However, this is just my opinion. I don't want to trigger anyone with my persistent love for the Warband game. It's absolutely fantastic. Bannerlord is a very good game as well, but I just think that Warband has many things that put it above Bannerlord.
Today the gods will decide your fate!
Following Warband's release, the next standalone game in the Mount & Blade series to come was With Fire and Sword. Now, this is based on the novel by Henryk Sienkiewicz. I think that's how you say it. Not too sure. Sorry if I'm pronouncing the name wrong. But his novel was also called With Fire and Sword, so you can see the similarities there. Now, this game is essentially Warband, but it's set in the 17th century Europe during a massive war for territory. It's also got a lot of guns, like lots and lots of fucking guns. You're just on your horse, you know, going along, about to slash some guy up, and all of a sudden you just get shot in the face with some massive guy with a musket. Now, it's annoying, but what can you do? I'd say that With Fire and Sword is a lot more difficult. It's a great addition to the series, however, it is unforgivingly more difficult than Warband. I don't know what it is. Maybe it's just the guns, you know, the guns.
Well, we could use these.
In the game, they are a bit unbalanced, they are very powerful, but it is very difficult to aim, and they do take a long time to reload. So if you can get to the soldiers and whack them in the face with the sword before they have a chance to reload the gun, then you'll probably be in a good position. But bearing in mind, when you're trying to face about 50 people with guns, they're all going to reload at different times. So you try to go for one, or the others are just like, nah, fuck you, you're dead. So it's a bit of a problem. But you can basically become the reincarnation of Napoleon, so, you know, take your chances. Then the follow-up to With Fire and Sword, which is surprisingly not a clone of the original Mount & Blade. I know, crazy shit, right? This is called Mount & Blade 2 Bannerlord, which came out last year, and you guessed it, you become the Lord of Banners. You don't really do anything else, you just walk around with a banner, say hi to people, and that's it. No fighting, no war, just banners. It's a great addition to the series. It's got beautiful graphics and amazingly satisfying combat. We will get more into Bannerlord a bit later on in the video. I'm not going to drag on about it because this is about Warband, what I believe to be the superior game in the Mount & Blade series. But, you know, go play both. Go play all of the Mount & Blade games. Form your own opinion. Don't just base this off mine. Play all of them. Seriously, do it. Anyway, a bit more on topic. So in this absolute gem of a game, you get to create your own hero with the primary goal of creating a massive army to conquer all of the lands and become king of Calradia by absolutely any means necessary. There are 6 main factions to start off with, which are the Kingdom of Swadia, which are based on Western Europe, such as England, France, Germany, that kind of region. Then you've got the Kingdom of the Vegas, who I believe are based on the Rus Federation, which is around Ukraine, Russia, and Belarus. Then we've got the Kingdom of the Nords. They're like the equivalent of the Vikings in Calradia. They are a bunch of hard bastards, and you have not felt pain until you go into battle with King Ragnar, when you've got like 130 men and he's got about 400 backing him up. I mean, Jesus bloody Christ. Moving over to the other side of Swadia, we've got the Kingdom of the Rhodoks, which are based on like the Italian Swiss region. They're quite a neutral party. You don't really come across them a lot. Then again, I'd actually argue that that is generalizing a bit, because that's just from my experience through the multiple playthroughs that I've actually done. The Rodoks just don't appear to be a very dominant faction when I play, but that could have everything to do with my personal play style. So there may be some of you who've played Warband and the Rodoks just absolutely dominate everything. So it really kind of just depends on the choices that you make within the game. I shouldn't really put up such a broad statement that you're not going to come across them, because you never know. The choices that you make might completely result in the Rodoks being dominant and mad as fuck. Who knows? Then you've got the Khergit Khanate. They're kind of like the steppe nomads from Mongolia, China, around that kind of area. And then last but definitely not least are the Saranid Sultanate, who are based on North Africa and the Middle East, such as Morocco, Tunisia, Turkey, Algeria, Israel, countries around that kind of area, you know? But Warband isn't just limited to straight up slaughtering massive armies of people. Warband really is a game where you can make your own story and destiny, where you can really do almost anything that you desire. Yeah, you could choose to be like a bandit who just goes plundering villages, raiding caravans, slaughtering like the innocent people traveling between the areas. You either go to war with other bandit groups such as the looters, the steppe mountain bandits, sea raiders, whoever you choose. And then you can even be a trader and a business owner. So you just go from like town to town, analyze the prices in various areas, and you can learn exactly where to purchase various game items such as linen, velvet, dyes and tools, so you can buy them for cheap and then learn where to sell them on for the most amount of profit. So let's say, for example, you're in the Saranid Sultanate, you decide to go to Aramad, buy a bit of velvet, and you travel all the way to Jelkala. So let's say you buy the velvet for, I don't know, 600. Go to Jelkala in the Rodoks area, bang, sell that on the market for like 900. You've made 300 dinars just from that.
A year's salary right here!
Then you just keep on going from there, and one day you'll be an absolute master. I don't know if that's geographically correct. I'm not a trader by trade. I'm not very good at trading, so
That's a nice head you have on your shoulders.
could be. If I'm right, let me know. Or fuck it, you could even get into the slave trade, you know, use your blunt weapons in battle to knock the enemies unconscious, take them prisoner, then sell them off to ransom brokers and taverns for profit. Easy money, but you want to battle the good people, because each different level of soldier has a certain value to them assigned by the ransom broker. So if you're trying to sell off, you know, if you kidnap loads of tribesmen, then you try to sell them off. I mean, you're not really going to get anything. But if you kidnap some Khergit Lancers, Jesus Christ, mate, you are going to be floating in money. Or if you're like me and most other Warband players, you can just build up a massive undefeatable army stacked to the brim with Swadian knights built like brick shithouses and the Khergit cavalry which break through lines of defense as if it were fucking paper and just dominate the map. The best part is you can adopt all of these different playstyles, whether it being a bandit, trader, slave trade, or just being dominant as fuck in the same playthrough. Not many games allow this vast flexibility that Warband offers to its players. You also have the option of becoming a mercenary for any particular faction depending on your relation that you have with that kingdom, in which you receive a wage from the king but you aren't entitled to have any fiefs. Now, it's a bit ridiculous, but it's good because you can earn money from it, whereas on the flip side, being a vassal, you don't actually get any money. But if you do decide to take an oath binding your blood and soul to said faction and becoming a vassal, in which you will fly the kingdom's colours and be given some shitty village to look after, basically just being the king's bitch. But being a vassal is good, and I would argue that it is an essential step in your Warband journey, as it does make things slightly easier for you to claim castles and towns and really build up your renown and reputation. When you besiege castles and towns, upon completion you can actually request that your king grants you the fiefdom. Whether or not he actually will though is entirely a decision of his own, and more often than not he will give that castle that you lost most of your strongest men and women trying to win, and give it to fucking Tulug Noyan, who had absolutely nothing to do with the siege, and just to add insult to injury is also trying to shag your fucking wife. But long story short, Sanjar Khan is a bloody wanker. On a more positive note, I actually defaced Tulug and challenged him to a duel over Lady Dulua, daughter of Brula Noyan, who at the time was Marshal of the Khergit Khanate. I actually smacked the bastard's head into the arena floor and won the love of my now wife. Tulug actually left the Khergit shortly after and seeked out refuge with the Saranids, who we were at war with. He's now known as Emir Tulug. What a fucking twat. A positive of when your king actually does give away something that you've rightfully earned, you actually have the option to rebel and start your own faction, which means you'll take not only that castle or city, but you can also take any other fiefs that you have been given by the king, and they'll belong to your own faction. And that is where the journey really starts, and the game does kick up a gear. You know, you start your own faction, and there are about 1 million things that you need to keep your eye on and just manage as a king. I'm not going to get into all of that in this video, but I will possibly make a video in the future explaining management of your own kingdom. But I will quickly say there is no feeling of power quite like when you declare war against another kingdom or indict one of your vassals for treason. You just get a bit of a surge of power. It's fucking amazing. Anyway, in order to build a successful army, you start off as just this one little kind of lonely guy, and you go around villages trying to recruit the lowest level of soldiers for about, I'd say, 10 dinars a pop. Once you get a bit of dollar, you can hit up the taverns in the towns and recruit some more experienced fighters such as the mercenary swordsmen, the higher blades who are hard as fucking nails by the way, caravan guards and so forth. There's quite a lot. Your army can actually reach about 300 to 400 men, although it may take a very long time to get there, and you are going to be shelling out a lot of money in wages and food. So those are two things that you need to be careful of when you have such a big army, although you fucking need it to take on King Ragnar. I swear to God, why does he have such a large army? It's beyond me. But you can personally upgrade each and every one of your men. As their leader, you are required to maintain their morale though, which is controlled by various factors such as like the winning and losing of recent battles, whether you can actually afford to pay your soldiers wages or not, and you have to keep a stock of food with variety between the different food groups. So don't just be a lazy fucker and stock up on bread and fish. That's what I do. And I tell you what, I mean, they'll eat bread and fish all day, but fuck it. You should probably add some fruit and cheese. And also the chemistry between the different types of soldiers. So for example, let's say you have some Swadian soldiers and some Rhodoc soldiers in your party, but at that time, Swadia and the Kingdom of Rhodocs are actually at war. The morale of these soldiers will decrease, and ultimately they won't perform as well in battle, or they may actually even leave your party if they're that unhappy. It especially decreases if, let's say, you've got an army filled with Swadian soldiers and you go to war with Swadia. They are not going to be happy and they will leave your party. I can't really blame them, but I mean, they shouldn't have joined you. As you can probably tell, even just the morale system alone has so many different components, and it's just one of the hundreds of things that Warband does absolutely fantastically. You don't see that in a lot of modern games, just the intricacy of the details that Warband has within its various systems. It's fucking amazing. You will not see that in a 2021 release. 2010, that was the time for games. I'm telling you. There are just so many things that you can do and manage within the game. Like, you can get married to the ladies or lords if you play as a woman, to getting good with the factions, and you can have a kick-ass marriage ceremony with a feast and everything. I mean, what more could you want out of a game? You can even participate in arenas, tournaments, get fame and glory, which are honestly kind of my favourite parts of the game. I absolutely love the authenticity of the arenas, for example. Like, it's just a bunch of naked people smacking each other with wooden swords, you know? That's kind of one of the things that annoys me a little bit about Bannerlord, because in the arenas and the tournaments you're using proper weapons, and you know, you'll get a spear through the face, and you'll spear someone right through the heart and they'll just be alive still. It just says they've been knocked down. That would kill someone, but in Warband they're using like wooden sticks, like wooden swords, so you know, it's actually more authentic. You can even start a business in the cities. You know, if you talk to the village elder, if you give them some money, you can start like a dye works or a mill, make some profit. Absolutely banging. You can do tons of different quests for lords and citizens of the world to increase your relations, or just straight up kill fuckers if none of that interests you. Hand to heart, I can honestly say that I have never played a game with such an extreme level of replayability. Even just the vanilla version of the game alone has an endless variety of content that maintains your interest for thousands and thousands of hours. A single playthrough may last 300 or more hours depending on how you really go about it. No matter how many playthroughs that you go through, I can almost guarantee that no two will be the same. The choices that you make shape the world around you, and if you really aren't interested in the gameplay at all, then I suggest buying the game just for the soundtrack. I mean, honestly, sometimes I'll sit alone in my car, spark up a joint, jam out to the main title theme by J.S. Hopkins. Honestly, the best music I've ever heard in my life. Dun, 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 dun. Now let's stray from the vanilla version of Warband for a bit, and here is where shit gets really fucking crazy. The modern community, I swear to God. 11 years later, holy eagle balls, this game has one of the most active, best and consistent modding communities I've ever come across. There is a mod for pretty much every aspect of the game, for pretty much anything you can imagine. Want your soldiers to take the formation in the shape of Peppa Pig? You've got it. Not only that, but there are mods that turn Warband into an almost completely different game. There's one where you can recreate the Peloponnesian War, one where you can play a campaign in the world of Game of Thrones, complete with bathhouses and prostitutes you can have sex with their tits hanging out. Lord of the Rings fan, there's a mod turn Calradia into Mordor and explore the kingdom. Stars with lightsabers and Wookiees, of course there is, why wouldn't there be? There are literally thousands of mods available on the Steam Workshop, and I'd argue that making the most of these is a necessity to enjoy this game at its full potential. Another thing to add regarding the immense replayability is how unique and relatable the characters you meet along your journey really are. I must admit, this is one of Bannerlord's downfalls in my opinion. The characters in the latest Mount and Blade are just very generic and aren't really as memorable as Warband's vibrant NPCs. Lackaleon the Surgeon will never, and I mean never, replace Jeremus. Never. In Warband, all the characters have unique personalities subjective to the individual. You either like them, such as Brula Noyan, King Gravith, absolute legends, you're neutral to them, or you violently hate them and want to see their fat head on a stick outside the gates of Ravadin. King Yaraglek, Tulag Noyan, Count Clargus, I'm looking at you, dickheads. The companions in Warband either get along with each other or hate each other. The way they complain to you about the others is absolutely fucking hilarious, and pissing them off by backing the person they complain about will never not be funny. They all come with a unique and interesting backstory, and similarly to the lords and ladies, you either love them or you hate them. Bit like Marmite really. In addition to this, you can also speak to the civilians in each town and village, ask about their life and what they do for a living. It really makes you feel as if the game world is truly alive, and it allows you to be completely immersed in it for hours on end. Anyway, what kind of reviewer per se would I really be if I didn't talk about some of the cons that Warband has? Now don't get me wrong, as much as I love this game to death, it isn't perfect. But what is? Other than The Weeknd's voice. His voice is perfection. The first thing I will say is that Warband, graphically speaking, is very outdated, especially when you compare it to Bannerlord. See, personally, I don't see this as a con. I find Warband's graphics to have a certain charm to them, and without it, it really wouldn't be Warband. Another thing is the combat can be quite clunky and difficult to get used to at first. It uses a directional based combat system which is kind of similar to games such as Gloria Victis and Mortal. It can take a bit of getting used to, but once you get the hang of it, then you'll be floating through the enemies with ease. The last con I will mention is the quests. Now, they can get a bit repetitive after a while, such as go take this fucking letter to fuckface in a castle halfway across the map, and when you get there, the wanker isn't even there. So you're going a wild goose chase trying to find him, only to realise he was in the next fucking castle over. Happens all the time, too many times, way more common than you'd think. Anyway, when you get to the end game, like once you've started your own faction or you've become established within the current faction that you join, you don't really want to bother with quests. I mean, if you're a king for a faction, you're not going to do quests for people. You're going to send people to do quests. End game, quests don't really matter. Fuck it. Anyway, I could go on about how much I love this game for hours and hours on end, and we don't really have the time for that. As much as I would love to sit here and rant about Warband for the next day or two, I can't really do that. I can't justify it, and no one would listen. So I'm going to end that here. I really hope that you've enjoyed the video, which will actually be one of the first ones up on this channel. If you've liked it, please smack the like button, leave a comment, subscribe to the channel. It would be greatly appreciated. You can purchase Mount and Blade Warband on the Steam store, PlayStation or Xbox for about 15 quid. Usually it goes down to about £2 to £3 on sale, so if you don't want to pay the full price, just get it on sale. I do believe it's on the Xbox Game Pass and also on PlayStation now for free, so if you have access to those, pick it up. Might as well try it, it's free innit. You can also probably find it on a third-party code distributor for between 2 to 3 quid, but if you really want to support TaleWorlds directly, which I strongly suggest doing, then I recommend buying it on an official platform. I might actually do a series on Warband where we start from the bottom and work our way up to becoming the king of all Calradia. If this is something that you would be interested in, then please let me know in the comments. Have a good one, guys. Peace out.
I will drink from your skull!